Hello, this short video here is going to provide you with some information on supporting reading across the content areas. I'd like to first begin by talking about where reading evolved from. So for some of you who are historians, you might know that the earliest civilizations relied upon the spoken language to communicate. It was only recently that writing systems evolved. And then this helped civilizations to be able to develop their reading and writing capacity. And the earliest writing systems evolved using pictographs, as you can see here on the right. It's important to note that reading and writing are both systems. Unlike all systems, they need to be explicitly taught. When we think about babies, for instance, when they're first born, they learn to speak without direct teaching. So when we think about the example of babies, an early human civilization, in the way that we learn to speak first, before we learn to be able to read and write, it gives you an idea of the complexity of these two systems and why it can be that reading is a very challenging task for some individuals. What I'd like to talk about next is what is reading. As I mentioned before, reading is a complex process and involves two key skills. These two key skills are word recognition and language comprehension. Word recognition is being able to understand the explicit, that is face value, and contextual, that's kind of like the hidden meaning of words. Let's think about this sentence here. Sally was stuck in a jam on her way to school. I want us to think about the word jam. When we think about the word jam, we might first come to think that Sally was stuck in a traffic jam. And our understanding of the word jam and its contextual meaning in the sentence helps us to be able to identify what it is the word means and its place within the sentence here. We might also be able to make other inferences or draw other knowledge and assumptions, such as maybe Sally lives in a highly built up area. Maybe there was a lot of traffic on her way to school. The second part of language comprehension, or second part of reading, is language comprehension. And that's being able to understand the sound that sounds and letters make up words. I like to think of the difference between word recognition and language comprehension. Word recognition is like the wall. It's the much greater macro side of reading and being able to understand words. Language comprehension is being able to understand that words are made up of individual letters and sounds. Let's think again about the word jam. When we have strong language comprehension, we're able to understand the word jam has 3 letters, such as J, A, M. We also understand that each letter has a different sound, and being able to blend these sounds, such as the j, a, m, together, we can make the word jam. So you can see that these two, being able to be efficient at these two skills in having the wall of understanding of words and what words mean, and also the bricks, the understanding that words are made up of sounds and letters. When we're successful in these two things, we are proficient readers. However, as some of you might have come to think or notice that in your class, there are some students that might have great difficulty with either of these skills. Thus, reading is particularly challenging for them. So let's now think about how reading develops, or how one develops their reading capacity. So when a human or child is born, for the first 3 years is when students or when individuals are learning to read. Sometimes this takes longer for some individuals, but typically by the end of year 3, we would say that students are transitioning into reading to learn. That is, they're starting to use reading as a pathway to draw meaning from other content areas, such as science, maths, humanities, or languages. And that is where this short video is specifically focused on. It's focused on how do we support students when they get to this stage and being able to draw meaning upon the content that they're reading particularly if they might have some learning difficulties, or they might need some additional support in being able to draw out this content. Because as we know, we have many students, or more and more students, coming to the secondary sector where they might really be on the cusp of learning to read and reading to learn, or they might be very, very much in the middle or early stages of learning to read. And this can make it particularly difficult for teachers in the various content areas when they're trying to teach the science, the content of science or the content of humanities, and they have students who are still very much in the first phase of learning to read. So the core strategy or principle that I would like to support you with is being able to view the text that you have for students and the content that is embodied within that text as your core focus. And then I want you to think about what tools do you have in your classroom that you might be able to utilize to help students draw meaning from this text, even if it is that they're significantly below grade level, or even if it is that they're in this first stage of really learning to read, and it's very difficult for them to be able to draw meaning from a year 7 or year 8 level text. You can see here that this is a photocopy that I've taken from one of the year 7 science teams, their workbook that they had for year 7 students. And the text is about safety in the science lab. So when I think about the purpose of this text, I think that it is teaching students how to be safe in the science room. And so if this is the core focus of my text that is in the center here, I want to then think about how can I draw upon other elements that I might have access to, such as pictorial cues, auditory cues through maybe YouTube or clip view videos, or physical cues. So what are some things that I might be able to do in the classroom that might be able to help students to be able to gain greater meaning of this text, my focus text in the center, even if it is that they aren't able to independently and competently read this text. So let's think about strategy 1, utilizing the pictorial cues. So this text here was really nice in that it had some very clear correlating pictures on the right. However, if you don't have these pictures present in your text, you might want to think about ways that you might be able to incorporate these into the text or be able to easily show these to students. Because pictures are a powerful way of supporting students' comprehension of a text. When you're utilizing pictures to help support a text, it's really important that you support these with very explicit questions that help students to really think about the connection between the pictures and the text. In this case, I might think about asking these questions here. What are the people doing in the pictures? I might point to individual pictures to really reinforce what I am looking at. How are they showing that they are safe or not safe? And I might point to differences between the pictures. What do you think this might mean for the text to the left? Or what do you think this might mean the text on the left is about? And then drawing a connection with my finger between the text on the left and the pictures. I then might say to students, looking at the pictures, what do you think is the difference between the information at the top box and at the bottom box? You can see here with the way that I articulated my questions to students, I really utilized the pictures to help anchor the text and to give meaning to the text, so that even if students weren't competent at being able to read the text, they could still use the pictures to really be able to draw meaning from what the text is about. My next strategy is utilizing auditory cues. And I might use this and say auditory visual cues, because you might refer to videos and not just your, that use like auditory and visual means and not just your, the spoken voice. But auditory cues are another powerful way to support written text. And easy ways to blend this into your instruction might be by thinking really specifically about what you're saying to students and providing really clear verbal teacher instruction. It might include reading sections of the text or directions to students and thinking really specifically about what you read to students. It might involve finding a relevant YouTube or clip view video. I found a quick one below that you can see on the screen about safety in the classroom. Playing this to students might help to increase their understanding of what the focus text is about. You might also find for older students podcasts, or providing them with the opportunity to partake in peer discussions where maybe they watch a YouTube video or you play a video for them and then they have the opportunity to talk to one another. So you're really layering on that element of their ability to listen and comprehend through the spoken language. My third strategy is utilizing physical cues. So particularly for some of you who might be in a PE classroom or a science classroom where you have lots of different tools, this is something that might be particularly useful in these particular settings. So physical cues are another useful way of supporting students with understanding a text. In this example of safety in the science room, you could give students the opportunity to hold, touch, or try different safety equipment. You could allow students to physically practice a skill, maybe in the PE classroom, or concept that they're reading about. So maybe providing this physical practice first before you read the text. You might also provide the opportunity to build and make through paper manipulatives. Maybe that's cut and sort things that help students to be able to, understand ideas through physical means. So I've gone through 3 really simple strategies that might support your students in reading in the different content areas. But one of the things that I want to finish with is some thoughts from John Hattie, who is a reading theorist and educational theorist. And when I read this, these particular 5 ideas really resonated with me and why reading is so important. And in particular, I think number 5 is really important, and I think it really connects to some of the information that I've provided you with today, in that literacy is so important as it does soon become the currency of other learning. And I think that this is particularly important when I, as the literacy specialist of the school, think about how I can support the school and content areas in being able to really make the most of supporting instruction and supporting students and being able to gain the most out of the different content areas. And so I hope that these skills or these strategies that I've shared with you today are helpful. And I'm certainly here to support more if you have any further questions.